Welcome to Mindful Moments, packed with insights but designed to fit into your busy life.
We always hear about the stories of lone survivors, the individual who just claws their way back against all odds.
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of thing.
Yeah. But what if the real story of survival is actually less about that solitary strength
Hmm.
and more about, I don't know, like the invisible threads that connect us to each other,
Oh, interesting.
or even maybe the unexpected anchors of purpose that give us a reason to keep going?
That's a really fascinating point. It really makes you think about what truly keeps us going,
Yeah.
when things get really tough.
For sure. And that's kind of what we're going to be diving into today. We're going to be looking at the experiences of a Holocaust survivor named Cilka Klein.
Okay.
And her journey is captured in a book by Heather Morris called Cilka's Journey.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Mm.
So to help us understand Cilka's story, we're going to be using a rhetorical analysis of the book. And that's going to help us kind of unpack how her story is told and the insights it offers into human resilience.
So it's not just about what happened to her, but how the story itself shapes our understanding of survival
Exactly.
and the importance of human connection and the lasting impact of trauma.
Yeah, and ultimately we want to extract like the most meaningful takeaways from her experiences for our listeners.
Awesome.
So the analysis kind of starts off by, really emphasizing that the story is rooted in reality. So even though Cilka's journey is categorized as a novel, it's actually inspired by the true experiences of Cilka Klein.
Right. So there's a real person behind this story.
Yeah, a real person who went through these horrific events. And
Yeah.
the author actually did a ton of research to ensure the story was as accurate as possible.
I see.
And that's important because it lends a sense of authenticity to the narrative, you know? Like, it gives us a reason to actually engage with it and not just dismiss it as fiction.
Yeah, that foundation of truth makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Because it means we have to grapple with the weight of what happened.
Exactly. These weren't just made-up scenarios. They reflect a very real and very tragic part of history. Now, moving into the emotional core of the story,
Okay.
the analysis really highlights how the author doesn't hold back in portraying the horrors that Cilka endured.
Right, both in Auschwitz and in the Siberian Gulag.
Yeah, but it's not all about suffering,
Okay.
The analysis also points to how the story illuminates Cilka's amazing resilience,
Mm-hmm.
her strength, her ability to forge relationships, and how she never gave up hope even in the most dire situations. I
Right.
know, it's pretty incredible.
That emotional depth is so important because it's through her personal journey that we can connect with her on a human level.
For sure. And then the sheer scale of the atrocity she faced becomes even more impactful. Now, along with that emotional power, the analysis also identifies that the story is grounded in logic and historical facts.
Okay.
So it explains how the author incorporated lots of details about the concentration camps and the Soviet Gulag system.
Good.
Yeah, and this factual backdrop is super important because it lends credibility to Cilka's experiences and helps us understand the broader historical context.
So it's not just her personal story, but it's also a window into a specific time and place.
Exactly. It connects her individual experience to this larger historical landscape of World War II and its aftermath.
Wow.
Now, here's where the storytelling gets really interesting. The analysis highlights how the author uses flashbacks really effectively. So Cilka's memories of Auschwitz are woven into her experiences in the Siberian Gulag.
Mm-hmm.
And these flashbacks aren't just there for dramatic effect. They really underscore the interconnected nature of trauma.
Right, showing how past experiences can continue to haunt the present.
Yeah, it's like those memories never really go away. They just kind of resurface at different times and in different ways.
It's like carrying those experiences with you wherever you go.
Exactly. And the analysis suggests this technique allows us to witness the cumulative impact of Cilka's suffering over time.
Yeah.
It's not just one event, but a series of events that shape her journey. Right. Yeah. The analysis also draws attention to the really well-developed characters in the book. So Cilka isn't just portrayed as a victim. We actually see her grow and transform from this vulnerable teenager into this incredibly resilient woman.
Yeah, that's important. It gives her agency, even in the face of such horrific circumstances.
Absolutely. And it's not just Cilka. The analysis also highlights the depth given to the supporting characters like Josie and Yelena.
Right, because those relationships were essential for her survival.
Exactly. They show the power of human connection in these incredibly dehumanizing environments.
Yeah.
And to really make us feel like we're there with Cilka, The author uses really vivid and descriptive language.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah, the analysis points to how Morris paints a stark picture of the brutal conditions in both Auschwitz and the Gulag.
You know, it must be difficult to read at times.
It is, but it's also incredibly powerful because it puts you right there in Cilka's shoes. You can almost feel the cold and the hunger and the fear.
Right. It makes her struggle that much more tangible.
Exactly. And it allows us to appreciate the magnitude of her resilience in the face of such overwhelming adversity.
It's amazing that she was able to survive at all.
I know, right? So taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, the analysis identifies a few key themes that run throughout Cilka's journey. One of the most prominent is obviously survival and resilience. Cilka's story is a powerful testament to the human spirit's ability to endure and overcome even the most horrific circumstances.
It's almost like a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there's still a spark of hope within us.
Yeah, but the analysis also encourages us to look beyond just individual willpower. It suggests that resilience is often fostered and sustained by external factors as well, like human connection.
I see. So it's not just about being tough on your own, but also about the support you receive from others.
Exactly. And that brings us to the second key takeaway, which is the profound power of friendship and sisterhood. The analysis highlights how the bonds that Cilka forms with other women are absolutely essential for her survival.
It makes sense. In those kinds of environments, having someone to lean on, someone who understands what you're going through, could make all the difference.
Yeah, those relationships provided her with both physical and emotional sustenance. It wasn't just about sharing food or clothes, but about sharing their stories, their fears, their hopes. It's like a reminder that even in the darkest of places, human connection can still thrive.
It's amazing to think about. Now, did the analysis mention anything about the moral dilemmas that people face in those situations?
It did, actually. The analysis also points to a really significant theme of moral ambiguity that runs through the novel. It explains how the story doesn't shy away from those incredibly difficult choices that Cilka and others were forced to make in order to survive.
Right, because in those situations, the lines between right and wrong can get really blurry.
Exactly. And it challenges us to think about the complexities of guilt and collaboration when survival is on the line. Like, at what point do you compromise your own morals in order to stay alive?
That's a really tough question to grapple with.
It is. But it's an important one to consider, I think, because it forces us to confront the gray areas of human behavior in extreme circumstances. It's not always black and white. Okay, so to give you a clearer picture of Cilka's journey, let's outline the key events that the analysis highlights.
Sure.
So at the young age of 16, Cilka is sent to Auschwitz. And tragically, she's forced into sexual slavery by the camp commandant. Then after the war, she's liberated from Auschwitz, but instead of finding freedom, she's accused of collaborating with the enemy and sentenced to 15 years in a Siberian Gulag. By the way, an AI audiobook analysis channel on YouTube called Mindful Moments probably has some really interesting insights on stories like this.
Oh, wow. So even after surviving the concentration camp, her ordeal wasn't over?
No, not at all. It's like she went from one horrific situation to another.
That's heartbreaking.
It is. So in the Gulag, Cilka develops these crucial friendships with other women prisoners, and she finds a sense of purpose by working as a nurse in the camp hospital.
It's amazing that she was able to find any kind of purpose in such a brutal environment.
Yeah, it really speaks to her resilience and her compassion. And despite everything she goes through, she eventually finds love with a fellow prisoner named Alexander. The novel ends with her release and their hope for a future together.
So even after all that suffering, there's still a glimmer of hope at the end.
Yeah. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the human spirit can still find a way to love and to hope for a better future. So now let's revisit those key takeaways that the analysis brought to light.
Okay.
First, we have the incredible resilience of the human spirit. Cilka's story is a powerful example of our ability to not only endure unimaginable suffering, but also to find hope even in the most hopeless situations.
It's like a testament to the strength that lies within each of us.
Yeah, but as we've discussed, it's not just about inner strength. The second takeaway emphasizes the crucial role of human connection and survival. Cilka's relationships, especially her bonds with other women, were absolutely fundamental to her well-being throughout her ordeal.
Yeah, those connections provide a sense of belonging and support, which can be so vital in times of crisis.
Exactly. They give us a reason to keep going when we feel like giving up. And then there's the third takeaway, which focuses on that moral complexity we talked about earlier. The novel forces us to confront the tough choices that people had to make in those extreme situations, and it challenges us to question simple notions of good and evil.
It's a reminder that things aren't always so clear-cut, especially when people are fighting for their lives.
Right. And the fourth takeaway centers on the lasting impact of trauma. The analysis emphasizes how the novel illustrates the enduring effects of war and imprisonment on survivors. It's not something that just goes away when the physical danger is gone. The psychological scars can linger for years, even decades.
That's so important to remember, because trauma can manifest in so many different ways.
Yeah, and it's something that survivors often have to deal with long after the event itself.
Yeah.
Now, the analysis also highlights the power of compassion and healing as a key takeaway. Despite the horrific conditions, Cilka finds a sense of purpose in helping others. She becomes a nurse in the Gulag hospital, and that act of caring for others, even in such a brutal environment, becomes a source of strength for her.
It's like she finds a way to reclaim her humanity through acts of compassion.
Exactly. And it shows that even in the darkest of places, there's still room for kindness and healing. And despite witnessing so much brutality, the analysis also points to the enduring power of love. Cilka's ability to love remains intact, and it's beautifully illustrated through her relationship with Alexander.
Yeah, it's a testament to the power of the human heart to find love even amidst such suffering.
For sure. And it offers a glimmer of hope that even after enduring such trauma, people can still find connection and joy. Finally, the analysis emphasizes the historical insight that the novel provides. It gives us a glimpse into life in both Nazi concentration camps and Soviet gulags, which is a part of history that's not as widely known.
It's important to remember those parts of history, even though they're difficult to confront.
Absolutely, because it's through understanding the past that we can hopefully prevent such atrocities from happening again. So, as you reflect on Cilka's extraordinary journey, I want to leave you with this question. What does resilience really mean to you? Is it about inner strength, or about the strength we gain from our connections with others, from finding purpose in helping others, and from the love that endures even in the face of unimaginable horror? Which of these forms of resilience do you think is most essential when facing life's toughest challenges?
That's a really thought-provoking question. Cilka's story definitely shows that both inner fortitude and those external connections are incredibly important.
They both play a role, for sure. And if you found this deep dive into Cilka's journey insightful, we encourage you to subscribe to our show for more in-depth explorations of these kinds of stories.
Yeah, we've got some great stuff coming up.
We do. And please share this episode with anyone who you think would appreciate this kind of analysis. You can also find a link to purchase Cilka's Journey in our show notes if you want to experience the full power of the story firsthand.
It's definitely a book worth reading.
It is. And as you continue to engage with historical narratives like Cilka's, remember to think critically about the context, the narrative choices, and the multifaceted nature of survival. It's through thoughtful reflection that we can truly learn from the past and hopefully create a better future.
Well said.
Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And we'll see you in the next deep dive.
See you then.